Good evening, everybody, and my apologies for not being here to welcome you at the beginning. I won't take too long because I really want to get into the discussion. In fact, the reason why I was late is because I was listening to another politician that was talking far too long. As you all know, my name is Ribeiro. I'm the Member of Parliament for Clapham and Brixton Hill, and I'm very pleased to be hosting you all today. And also because this is an issue that affects my community quite a lot. Lambeth is one of London's most diverse boroughs, where communities of Black, Asian, and ethnic minority people have lived together for a number of years. But this diversity is often accompanied with serious systemic challenges, and that comes especially when we're looking at contact with the police. Lambeth not only ranks amongst the top 5 most diverse areas, but it holds the most unfortunate distinction of having the lowest level of trust and confidence in policing in the entire city. Only 38% of residents in Lambeth believe that the Metropolitan Police treats everybody fairly. And we have to understand that this level of distrust can't be a coincidence. According to data from the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime, that areas with the highest ethnic diversity consistently report the lowest confidence in law and enforcement. As I said, that just can't be a coincidence. And this clearly stems from long-standing systemic racism within the police force, as reflected in both overt and covert practices. Communities of colour are disproportionately over-policed as suspects whilst being under-protected as victims. The use of stop and search is perhaps the most stark, and we know who it disproportionately targets, and this leads to harassment and violence, and again, people seeing the police not as their protectors, but their harassers. And when we think about deaths in custody following police contact, and how they are most likely to be people from ethnic minority backgrounds, and even more troublingly is just how many and how often this happens. And well, actually, I don't think people have ever seen a situation in which somebody has, I suppose, been successfully prosecuted for that. Now, this is also compounded by the fact, and you've heard this already, about the lack of diversity within the Metropolitan Police. And at the moment we're seeing only 16.7% of its officers from Black, Asian or other minority ethnic backgrounds. And again, this is in London. When we think about what London represents, London looks like this room. It definitely doesn't look like this doesn't look like its police force. Now, having that limited amount of diversity really does impact the relationship between police and residents. You've got people policing areas that don't understand them, that have not grown up in them, that don't get communities, and I think that's really is exacerbating the problem. And when we hear about the amount that Black officers tend to face racism in the force, we can't be surprised that retention is so low, and we can't be surprised that it's very difficult for us to encourage others to join the profession if they're going to find themselves treated in this way, and more likely to face disciplinary, more likely to be chucked out, more likely to face these horrors, all because they want to do something good. They want to protect their communities. And I think it's so important to make that point, because whenever I talk about the police, and obviously no profession or no group of people likes to be criticised. I know politicians don't like to be criticised, but whenever I talk about the police, or you hear others talk about the police, you instantly hear a load of defensiveness. And I think that's wrong. If you're in a public service role, you have to be able to take the criticism that comes with it, because you're there to serve people. And in order to do that right, you're going to have to hear, firstly, what you're doing wrong, and actually take the steps to correct it. So the idea that people are telling the police that they're institutionally racist and showing them how they're doing it, and they are coming back with, there is nothing wrong with us, there is nothing to see here, there are a few bad apples, is going to do nothing to improve the police force. And in fact, it's gone to the extent that some people want to see the police force completely abolished. And you've got to understand why they think this way. Now, I don't agree with that, because as I said, I come from a community in which people are quite often the victims of crime. We need a police force that represents and protect us, but in order to do that, they have to admit that they're institutionally racist. They have to accept what their failings are. They have to accept all of the recommendations from these many reviews, as we've heard, that have gone past. And you know, the most recent one was the Casey review. And the findings of those were so horrific in terms of what came out. I mean, the institutional racism, sexism, and homophobia, and the corruption. And you know, this reinforces this entire cycle. Now, breaking the cycle is going to require fundamental change. We need to have a police force that, yes, again, reflects London's diversity, but also understands the cultural nuances of the community it serves and fosters trust rather than suspicion. People are not going to help the police fight crime if they think that the police are the aggressors. And to achieve this, the police force are going to have to deal with internal racism and stop taking every single criticism as a means to shrink back and not actually listen to what people are saying. They have to accept their systemic failings, and it's so important that we continue to have discussions about this, not to knock them around the head as they think that we're doing, not to discredit those that are doing a good job, but actually just to make sure that they are a public service that is worthy of the level of power that they have, because they have a lot of power, and you know, that is worthy of the level of respect that they're meant to command in society. They are there to protect us, and they're gonna have to start with understanding that in order to protect us, we have to trust them.